Thank you very much for joining us. This is the Home Upgrade Introduction to Ongoing Participants. The webinar is supposed to begin at 9 a.m., so we will be starting shortly. Good morning to those on the line. My name is Melina. I work for Build It Green, and I'm joined by my colleague Torsten Glidden. He'll be presenting the Energy Upgrade California Home Upgrade Introduction for ongoing participants. We will be starting in a few minutes. Thank you very much for your patience. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Melina Corona, and I work for Build It Green. I'm joined this morning by my associate, Torsten Glidden. He'll be presenting today's Energy Upgrade California Home Upgrade Introduction for ongoing participants. Joanne Penchana, the program manager from PG&E, will be available for questions at the end of the presentation. I do want to start off by making a couple of announcements. Questions will be taken at the end of the webinar, so please use the questions box on the GoToWebinar panel to submit questions throughout the presentation. And then in addition, the webinar is being recorded, so a follow-up email will be sent early next week with a link to the recording and a copy of the presentation for your review later on. Torsten, did you want to say a few words before we start?
Thank you, Melina. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, just for a brief reminder that this is a webinar for ongoing participants. It's not for new prospective enrollees in the Home Upgrade Program, also formerly known as Whole House Rebate Program under Energy Upgrade California. And with that, I will begin. And as Melina suggested, please hold your questions until the end of the, or actually you can type them as we go along, and we'll start answering them at the end of the webinar. The agenda will be Advanced Home Upgrade, formerly Advanced Package, then Home Upgrade, formerly Basic Package, and the requirements, program design, job submission, and questions and comments at the end. So the Advanced Home Upgrade is what was Advanced Pack. It just now becomes, it's a name change, Advanced Home Upgrade. There are absolutely no changes to the current advanced pathway and process. It remains the only advanced energy modeling-based program in PG&E service territory for PG&E supplied fuels, gas and/or electric. The program coordination and incentive agreements in overlapping service territories for Advanced Home Upgrade will remain the same as they were under Advanced Package in, for instance, SMUD and SoCalGas territories, et cetera. And additionally, all current marketing materials can still be used. Please update them with Advanced Home Upgrade as the title instead of Advanced Package or Whole House Rebate Program. And that would be for reprinting or creating new material. So let's get started on Home Upgrade, the new basic pack, what was Basic Package. Program requirements for enrollment. No new enrollment qualification requirements for approved ongoing program participants except attending this webinar. You're grandfathered into the Home Upgrade Program if you are a current in good standing approved program participant under Whole House Rebate Program. You do, at your enrollment anniversary, however, need to sign an updated participation agreement, and that really just includes the new program name, exhibit documents with the names updated, and there's a new rep and warrant background check policy in place. Testing requirements for Home Upgrade, very similar to what they were under Basic Package, with the caveat that duct blaster and blower door aren't required in all cases. They are tied to the appropriate measure in the work scope. So if you're doing duct sealing, you're going to have to perform a duct blaster test, and if you're doing air sealing, you're going to have to perform a blower door test. It is the same requirement for those performing combustion appliance safety test in and test out. They are required at test in and test out as they were before. And the BPI on staff or the BPI performing that testing needs to have had PG&E's advanced technical training, which we offer at Stockton Energy Training Center currently, and occasionally in other locations close to the Bay Area. Quality assurance and quality control will remain vigorous. We will have contractor training on installation specifications, so those that have been updated under this program that are specific to it, with what we're calling the Home Upgrade Core Training. And then there will be supplemental technical trainings on sort of best practices for all of the various installation techniques that are warranted by those measures. There will be 100% application QA desktop review for for completed upgrades, so for the jobs you submit, the applications you submit for rebate. In those reviews, we compare the measures with the CAS data, contractor and customer information, validate program documentation, and so on. But it's a shorter review, a simpler review than the reviews under Advanced Home Upgrade. It will be tiered in sampling quality control in the field, as we do with Advanced Home Upgrade. Very similar process. But we'd also like to focus more on in-field mentoring sessions. So if you were interested in one, they can be paired with your test out, but you have to give us a little bit of advance notice. So contact Build It Green as far in advance as you know you're going to be conducting a test out within reason. Customer eligibility. So it's similar but not exactly the same to basic. Single-family detached homes are the focus. At this time, there are no 2 to 4 unit buildings. If you have a 2 to 4 unit building, we suggest you use the advanced pathway. The property owner doesn't need to reside in the home, very similar to advanced and basic in the past. It can be a renter that initiates the process, and then the rebate can be reassigned if necessary by filling out a form and uploading it with your application. It's important that the ratepayer or client customer receives gas and or electric service from PG&E, and that is outside the 9 Bay Area counties. This is a crucial component to home upgrade within PG&E, within the PG&E program, PG&E service territory. Inside of the 9 Bay Area counties, the program will actually be administered under BayREN, and they will be rolling out their program details soon. If you are outside of the 9 Bay Area counties in PG&E service territory, you'll still be submitting your applications to Build It Green. And again, no propane at this time is currently rebatable for fueled space or water heating. In the future, there are some possible upgrades to the home upgrade program that possibly will allow propane. So stay tuned for that. Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or BayREN, will be, again, the contact for projects within the 9 Bay Area counties. Participating contractors must perform the upgrades in all these cases. Caveat being that if there are multiple parts to the scope of work being performed by specialty contractors, one just needs to take the lead on performing those upgrades. On submitting the work for that project. Submitting the paperwork for the project. And then ensure that the proper permits are obtained and abide by all local, state, and federal requirements as usual. Program design under home upgrade. So the initial measure selection was designed and based on the most commonly installed measures within the program to date. A lot of that data was collected from both basic and advanced package pathways. The measures list may be adjusted and expanded in the future. More to come on that, so stay tuned. Tiered incentives were designed to drive comprehensive retrofits while allowing entry-level installations as well. So this was designed to take advantage of the opportunity that a lot of, for instance, HVAC contractors have. They get their foot in the door with a service call and find that the homeowner wants and needs a new HVAC system, and there are other retrofits available. Some low-hanging fruit in those cases. Maybe it's replacing insulation and doing air sealing in the attic, duct sealing, etc. The incentives are based on the average savings percentage by measure statewide. You must install at least 3 measures, including 1 base measure. The upgrades must equal 100 points or more to qualify, so that at 100 points you get, or your client gets, a $1,000 rebate. And then it continues on up to a cap of 250 points and $2,500. If you exceed the 250 points, we would encourage you to look at possibly taking advantage of the advanced upgrade, home upgrade pathway, because your client could be eligible for higher savings and higher rebate. The points continue to add $500 to the rebate every 50 additional points. So at 100 points, you get $1,000. At 150 points, you get $1,500, and so on. Additional points may be added regionally. That's something that might be coming in the future, so stay tuned for that. We don't have any further information on it at the moment, though. Here are the home upgrade measures, beginning with base measures. So we have two types of ducts. One is sealing existing to 10% or less leakage. That gives you 15 points. Duct replacement, so replacing the entire system, then that would require sealing the ducts to 6% or less leakage. That gets you 25 points. Whole building air sealing at a 15% reduction in leakage or better, based on default vintage, so a SLA of 4.9. And then whole building air sealing at 30% leakage reduction or better gets you 30 points. And then the third type of measure would be performing attic insulation and air sealing together. And for all climate zones besides 1 and 11 through 16, the requirement would be R30 at a minimum or better. In those climate zones, 1 and 11 through 16, you're required to install R38 or better, and that gets you 25 points. Then tied to these base measures, which you must choose one of or more, you are given bonus points, so base measure kickers, as you select additional base measures. And that's obviously designed to incentivize customers to select more base measures, which help keep the energy in their house once you've made these improvements on the equipment side, on the flexible measures side. So if they select two base measures, they get not only the points for the base measure, but the additional kicker points. And then if they select a third base measure, they get the points for those measures as well as the second base measure kicker and the third base measure kicker combined. So the total for selecting, total bonus points for selecting two extra base measures, in other words, all three base measures, is 35. And the flex measures are as follows currently. We have wall insulation, floor insulation, duct insulation, and you'll notice that floor insulation gets you a big boost. And then also we have furnace, air conditioner, and two types of gas storage water heater, as well as gas on-demand water heater and electric storage water heater. One caveat here is where you see the red star is that within PG&E service territory, the efficiency factor 0.62 or greater on up to 0.66, right? So just underneath the next storage water heater efficiency threshold is not available for rebate. It is in potentially in other service territories, possibly in the Bay Ren, but it is not currently in PG&E service territory. So this is a statewide list of measures, and we just wanted to make sure everyone was clear that that particular measure was not available for rebate in PG&E service territory.
Can you say the efficiency factor for gas storage water heaters in PG&E territory?
Yeah, so the efficiency factor available for rebate in PG&E service territory for gas storage water heater would be the efficiency equal to or greater than efficiency factor 0.67, and that gets you 35 points. So here's some sample home upgrades. There's like a typical heating package that would get you at least to $1,000 rebate for your client. You select a furnace and duct sealing down to, that would be an existing system in this case, down to 10% leakage or better, and a whole building air sealing to the 30% reduction over default vintage. And you get, that gets you to 75, it gets you to, what, 90 points. And then the base measure kicker adds another 15% because you've added a second base measure. You see base measure 1 and base measure 2. That gets you over the top. So you're at 105. You're now in the $1,000 threshold. And then, for instance, with the cooling package, you select an air conditioner because that's what the client wanted when they called for their HVAC service, and 3 base measures: attic and air sealing, duct sealing, and whole building air sealing. And those points get you to what? 55, 65. The base measure kicker, because you selected all 3 base measures, is 35 points. And that gets you up to over the top at 110 and into a rebate. There are some others there for you to take a look at. If you have any questions about these, save them for the end. Write up some questions for us and we'll get them answered for you. Comparative incentive levels. So here's a comparison between home upgrade and advanced home upgrade. Caveat at the bottom is that, again, home upgrade is only available outside of the 9 Bay Area counties within PG&E service territory. Let me back up for a second. It's available in PG&E service territory in the Bay-Ren 9 Bay Area counties too, but you'd be submitting that project to Bay-Ren instead of Build It Green. Advanced home upgrade, that is still the same. It is unchanged based on on percentage of savings on energy modeling. And so you can see the comparison in points. We cover the first half of the point spread for advanced home upgrade, basically. Potential improvements. So in the future, what we expect to see is an expansion of measure selections, and that would include things like higher tiers for furnaces, AC and attic insulation, as well as the addition potentially of windows, heat pumps, and other measures available for points within the flexible measures section. Allowing the customer to sign over the incentive to the contractor, that is something that we see coming down the road potentially as well. And then allowing customers, again, with propane appliances potentially to participate under the right set of circumstances. They would obviously have to have some appliance that is using a PG&E supplied fuel on the utility service side. And then a joint program with SoCalGas. SMUD will have a parallel program, as I understand it, but we will have a joint program with SoCalGas, and there will be more to come on that for home upgrades. Advanced home upgrade, again, stays the same. The transition timeline. So what we see is that by Monday, June 17th, contractors begin submitting home upgrade jobs upon receipt of home upgrade portal login information from Build It Green. And the caveat there, the asterisk, is that there'll be some selection of contractors selected for their willingness to test and provide feedback to us in sort of a testing mode to make sure we work out the bugs in the user interface before we open the floodgates to all submissions. And then July 1st, all contractors begin submitting home upgrade jobs upon receipt of home upgrade portal login information. Same process. They'll get a login information from Build It Green by email. And if we can, roll that out to all contractors earlier, if feedback is positive and we don't have additional issues to straighten out, we will do so. So we may see full adoption before July 1st as well. July 15th, basic package submissions would end. So we want everyone to have their remaining basic package jobs under Whole House Rebate Program, under the old model that gets submitted to Compass, submitted and in the process of being reviewed for a rebate at the latest. So that's your drop dead date for the old basic package submitted to Build It Green and Green Energy Compass. And again, please contact Build It Green immediately if you have a job that will fall outside this time frame. We need to sort of plan ahead for what we expect to see to get everything wrapped up by that date. So job submission under home upgrade. These are the two user interface comparisons. What you have for advanced home upgrade still is Green Energy Compass, and you'll be taking those jobs to the URL listed here, pg&egreenenergycompass.com, also accessible from the Build It Green Utility website, which is on the next slide. So nothing will change there for Advanced Home Upgrade. Home Upgrade, you would submit to the following URL, builditgreen-main.forest.com/pg&e-portal. That URL will probably change in the future, but we will make sure that everyone is aware of that change as it happens, and that the button from the Build It Green Utility website will be the same point of access. You can always access either Home Upgrade or Advanced Home Upgrade from those two buttons. They'll have the correct URL assigned to them. And if some of you recognize these buttons, that's from the builditgreenutility.org website, where most of our information and the resource library is located, events, logging it, or getting signed up for this webinar, for instance, that all happens there. These two buttons, Home Upgrade and Advanced Home Upgrade, are new as of Monday, so they're not on the website now. Don't bother looking for them. You'll see them Monday by midday, noon. So when you select the button for Home Upgrade, it'll take you to a rebate processing portal user login that only has this on the web page. You'd enter the username and password provided by Build It Green. You will be able to change your password if you choose, and so it may be something that's easier for you to remember, but you'll get a randomized password signed by Build It Green initially. Once you sign in, at your initial sign-in event, you will see the option, if you are an approved contractor for both of these rebate programs, you tell us which one you want to enter, you want to log into first, and it'll take you there. In this case, we expect most of you to be going to Home Upgrade program. And it's important to note that this only happens once. You only have to make the selection once. It just takes you to whichever one you want to initially start with. When you're in, you'll be able to switch between the two programs without having to re-log in. So you'll have access to both programs if you are a participating approved contractor for both programs. Something that will hopefully simplify your interface with the rebate programs that we implement for PG&E. So as a Home Upgrade participant, you would begin by adding a building, which is your job site. So you start at that higher level. This provides the ability in the future to support multifamily, for instance. But for the program, your only selection, once you've added that building, will be selecting single-family detached, which is essentially just that building is your application. So notice the two buttons up at the top title bar. So building is where you start, and then application is the next step. You'll select this button to add a building, enter the relevant data, give the building a name. If it's named after a person, for instance, or you could just call it the same thing as the street address if you like, or the homeowner's last name, or whatever makes most sense for you to organize your list. Then enter the relevant address information, select the building type, which for Home Upgrade will be only single-family detached because 2 to 4 units are not currently eligible for Home Upgrade, and then click Save. That creates a record, and then it gives you a few new steps to take. Right here in the circle, you see some edit icons in the form of pencils, and that allows you to add additional building information, property owner information, if it's different than the address of the project, and the utility account information, so the service IDs for meters. Here's once you click on that pencil icon, the data entry field for additional building information, you would enter the number of bedrooms, occupants, stories, primary fuel. So if most of the heating is done by electric, so you have a heat pump, for instance. In this case, this isn't a rebate measure yet, but in the future it will be. You would select that. If it's gas, for the primary heating. So your furnace is the primary heating source that you would select that. You can select a secondary fuel if it is split. The hot water fuel as well. So what provides the fuel for the water heater? The primary heating contribution percentage. So you can make a subjective determination about how much of the primary heating fuel is contributed by whichever source you chose. The year built, so you're setting the vintage of the building, the conditioned square footage, average ceiling height. This doesn't need to be exact, but a weighted average would be appreciated. In many cases, it will be quite simple, but if you have vaulted ceilings in one part of the house and a drop ceiling in most of the rest of it, then you would want to perform a weighted average based on how much of that conditioned floor area is vaulted ceiling versus how much is standard drop ceiling. The attic type. So is it a vaulted ceiling? Is it a standard attic? Is it, I'm trying to think of another configuration, is a flat roof, etc. The heating system, air conditioning, so you'll have a couple different choices, or a number of different choices in each of those. Select the one that's closest. Oh, there's a little, anyway, foundation type is what that should read, but we'll get that fixed. And so you'd be selecting slab foundation or raised foundation with crawl space, without crawl, etc. And the water heating system. So a few different types of that. Is it a storage water heater? Is it a tankless water heater? Is it electric tankless, electric storage, etc. And then when you're finished, you would select Save. Brings you to the next editable section, the property owner information. It is pre-populated with information from the address, but you can add information here as well. Contact information for the property owner or client, and then if there is a different address for who's supposed to get the rebate, that will be entered there as well. And select Save, move on to the next section, and that would be the data entry field for utility accounts. You want to select the utility, so in most cases it would be PG&E, and then for split service territory, well, you would have, selecting SMUD, for instance, for electric, SoCalGas for gas, and so on. Make sure you enter the service ID, which is for the meter type, not the account holder's account number. So in the body of the bill, there would be two different numbers associated with the fuel meters, and you would enter those in the appropriate fields. And then click Save and to continue. That brings you to, at that point, you'd have what looks like this, essentially, because you can collapse the screens, and then you would select Application next to the building button, which brings you to this screen. And if you had added jobs already, applications, you would have a list of those applications. It gives you some basic data about them, your points totals, and so on. If you are adding a new one, you're starting fresh, you select the Add Application button. It brings you to the next screen. You'd search for the dwelling unit / building. So you just created a building, you click the search button, you enter relevant data like a name or the address or the zip code, and then click search, and it brings up a list of searches of buildings you've already added, and you select that building in your list, and then you move to selecting rebate assignment, and you would set you can only choose one. These are radio buttons. In most cases, it'll be the ratepayer as the payee, the PG&E utility service account holder. In other cases, it may be the property owner. So again, if your rebate's getting reassigned to the property owner, then you would select that. In the future, you will have the opportunity to reassign it to the contractor. But that button, for now, is not accessible. It's grayed out. Base measures. You then select at least one base measure. In this case, we've selected 3 of them, and you can see as you select a base measure, you see the available points, and then you get a selected points contribution to your running total. So as you select these measures, it populates this column to the right, and at the bottom it totals up. And it'll add the bonus or kicker measure points in at the bottom. You then select flex measures. So if the initial reason for the visit for your customer was, well, in this case, wall insulation, typically it would probably be a furnace or an air conditioner or a water heater. But as we've done in this simulation, selected duct insulation, you see the points totaling up on the right side. Wall insulation. For water heaters, you click the Add button, and in this case, there was this sample client had a gas storage water heater. The wrong one, actually, in this service territory. That'll be turned off on Monday. And gas on demand, in other words, tankless, and those points totals are on the right side, or the point contribution is on the right side. It also totals the water heaters up here, and you can uncheck them. In other words, if you added the wrong thing, you can unselect them by using the X button. And then below that flex measures list, you'll get the subtotal, the points total, and the bonus points. So it'll add up those kicker bonus points and the points total. It caps at 250. It will add up your points total, so you have a clear idea of whether it might be worth your while to try running it through the advanced program, the advanced home upgrade. But it will give you your total incentive at the bottom as a reflection of your points total. You want to verify the points measures, the points measures points total, which is your estimated rebate as well, and then upload any required documents. In every case, the test measurements form for test in and test out for combustion appliance safety will be required, and the CAS test acknowledgement form will be required. If you need to reassign the rebate to the homeowner and the ratepayer is the client, then you would upload a form that's available on the Build It Green Utility website and choose the file, upload it here. And if the scope of work warranted a building permit, which in many cases almost, well, a good number of cases it will, you would select the choose file and upload that scanned document here, and then select Save to submit your job or review. It gets you back to the lists, and at that point your submitted job is scheduled for review, which should take place within 2 to 3 business days. And you can examine jobs you've submitted from this list. There'll be communication on whether your job was approved or was returned to you as a contractor for clarification on some document or other by email from a desktop reviewer. This is a quick overview of the rebate request process flow. This is, it should actually say pre-installation, but this is prior to submitting to us. So you as a contractor, again, the unique thing about home upgrade is, relative to advanced home upgrade, is that the job isn't submitted until it's complete for home upgrade. So you'll submit after you've done a site assessment, executed contract with a homeowner, performed the installations, then you submit the rebate request to Build It Green, unlike advanced home upgrade where you would do a pre-app test-in submission for the application and then do a post-installation rebate request submission. So in this case, there's just the rebate request submission. You do it after you've completed all the work. It gets to us. We check that you've done the test in, test out. There's a combustion appliance safety test acknowledgement form in place signed by the homeowner, building permit if necessary, and it gets approved or returned if any of those things are missing information. You would then, if it did get returned, correct that and resubmit it, and at that point, hopefully it's been corrected, it gets moved on, approved, You get notification of that. It gets into a queue for sampling for field verification, quality assurance, and they contact a homeowner if it gets scheduled. They perform a field verification. If everything's okay, then it moves to rebate approval. If it's not part of the sampling or part of the tiering requirements for a particular contractor, then it moves on to rebate approval. In between that process, there is still the possibility of a third-party field verification by CIPs, which, Melina, correct me if I'm wrong, it's Central Inspection Program, which is a third-party service provider to PG&E that conducts independent verifications of field quality assurance. Once the rebate is approved, you get a notification of that, and then you can inform the customer, and they should get the rebate shortly thereafter. Customers will also get a customer survey in which they can provide feedback about the experience they had, which helps you guys out too, because you do good work, you get a good reputation, and you can market on that. Questions and comments? Contact info and next steps. Here is Build It Green's contact information for implementation. builditgreenutility.org. That's our program portal for both advanced home upgrade and home upgrade. We have recorded webinars, documents, policy documents, training dates, events, etc. And stay tuned for future email updates on program requirements. Updates to the participant handbook and program documents will be available shortly. And as well, stay tuned for additional information from BayREN on home upgrade program in the 9 Bay Area counties. Questions? There's the participant hotline and a number of email addresses based on your specific inquiry. Enrollment, general information, jobs, and field QA at builditgreenutility.org.
Great. Thank you very much, Torsten. So we'll go ahead and start answering questions. If you haven't already, please utilize the questions box on the GoToWebinar panel and submit your questions. We will be taking them in the order that they are received. And Torsten, if you're ready, we'll go ahead with the first question.
Sure. Do we have Joanne on the line as well?
We do have Joanne. Joanne, you're on the line, and I'll unmute you. So if needed, you should be able to respond to questions that maybe you can provide more information to. So Torsten, can you repeat again, when is the submission portal going to be available?
It'll be available beginning noon on Monday, the 17th, but we've done some outreach and are working with some selected contractors who have shown interest and willingness to provide feedback and testing on the user interface.
Great. There are some questions about the base measures. So it appears that the duct replacement is available for 25 points. The question is, if we seal an existing system to less than 6% leakage, does that count as duct replacement, and can it qualify for 25 points?
As I understand it in this case, no. It would be a system replacement, but that is a good question. Joanne, do you have any further clarification on that?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Joanne. You're a little low, but it should be okay.
Okay, I'll try to yell without bugging those around me. So for those of you who don't know, Joanne Ponchana, Program Manager at PG&E for the Energy Upgrade California program. And Torsten's correct. Only new replacement ducts are eligible for those for that 25 points. As long as you seal it's 10% or less for the existing systems, you're eligible for those points. And obviously, we're encouraging you to go lower than that, but there aren't additional points associated with that, at least currently. But if that's something that's popular, we could look into adding an additional tier there as well for increased reduction of leakage.
Oh, I have one more thing to add, too, on the previous question. So if there are contractors who are really raring to go with job submission for this new home upgrade pathway, they're welcome to contact us, and we'll get something set up where you help provide feedback for the user interface prior to July.
Great. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Torsten. So we'll go on to the next question. It's regarding base measures. Attic insulation and air sealing appears to be available for 25 points, but air sealing is required in the attic only. What is the required air sealing improvement for this measure? We may need clarification, but does that make sense?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The question is, what is the required air sealing improvement for this measure? And the measure is attic insulation and air sealing.
So it would be sealing the attic plane as much as it is warranted by the situation. Ideally, this is a situation where either there is essentially R0, no insulation in the attic, and everything's accessible. You can see the whole attic plane, and you seal that in its entirety. Or a situation where perhaps you're taking out old insulation that wasn't well installed or is underperforming, or was done at a time when there were no requirements for a certain R value and it's just insufficient. So in that case, if it's blown-in insulation, it can be vacuumed out and then the attic plane sealed. If it is bad insulation, then that can be relatively easily removed by hand and attic plane sealed. So as much as is reasonably accessible would be what we'd like to see as a best practice.
So it sounds like the improvement is required, but not a threshold or minimum threshold for improvement.
Joanne, do you have any further clarification on that?
Yeah, sure. To add to what Torsten said, we will be having a little bit more detailed specifications on what we expect in terms of insulation requirements, but it'd be that you'd seal, as Torsten mentioned, the attic plane, the joists, knee walls, and we would also be publishing kind of what our in-field inspectors will be looking for. Basically, they'll be looking for signs of that proper air sealing, in addition to some leakage reduction, but not necessarily having to meet a certain threshold.
Right, right. So for instance, with these base measures, you will have your diagnostic testing requirements associated with them, as we touched on at the beginning of the slide presentation, which is if you're doing any sort of existing duct sealing or new system duct replacement and sealing, you perform a duct blaster, and that goes on your combustion appliance safety test measurements form. And then if it's whole building air sealing or air sealing in conjunction with the attic insulation, you would perform blower door tests, and that goes, again, on your test measurements CAS form.
Great. Thank you both. The next question is, what is the minimum threshold for duct insulation? For example, can we go from an R4.2 to R8, and does that get you 70 points?
Yeah, as I understand it, that would be in the spirit of the measure.
Great.
That's a good sound practice.
Okay, wonderful. The next question is, can you please list the 9 counties in Bay-Ren? And I do have a list of those Bay-Ren counties. So Bay-Ren, again, stands for the Bay Area Regional Energy Network. The 9 counties in Bay-Ren are Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, Napa, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Solano, and Sonoma. And Torsten, do you just want to reiterate the importance of Bay-Ren?
Yeah, so there will be information that we will relay to participating contractors and raters forthcoming from Bay-Ren about when to submit jobs in their service territory, or I shouldn't say service territory, but within their region, because the utility service is still PG&E primarily. But as far as home upgrade is concerned, we will only be receiving applications outside of those 9 Bay Area counties, Billett Green as PG&E's program implementer for home upgrade. But again, for advanced home upgrade, we as PG&E's implementer will still be accepting applications for advanced home upgrade in all counties within PG&E service territory.
Joanne, did you have something to add to that?
Nope, I think that summarizes it perfectly.
Wonderful, thanks. So moving on, the next question is, How was the point system developed for home upgrade program? I'm curious to know why wall insulation yields only 15 points, while floor insulation yields 70. It seems like the home upgrade point system does not align with what Energy Pro is reporting.
Joanne, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So a couple thoughts on that question. That's a really great question on how we came to the point values. So for each given measure, we use a series of data to come up with deemed or prescriptive average energy savings. And those were used based on DEER, Database for Energy Efficiency Resources, and RAS, Residential Appliance Saturation Survey data that shows what's kind of most common currently in the market, and use those to come up with our data. One of the challenges with a deemed approach versus the calculator where you have in advance is you're assuming that code is a baseline in many cases, which obviously is higher than the existing material or equipment might be. So those are how we came up with the deemed baseline. Then we used a weighted average across the state in terms of savings for how those relate to points. So the points are directly associated with the amount of savings that the utilities can claim for any given measures or that we'd anticipate a customer would be able to benefit from. So hopefully that helps. And they do vary from Energy Pro. As many of you might be aware, there was a recent disposition from the California Public Utilities Commission saying that Energy Pro was overestimating the baseline of jobs, and as such was probably overestimating gas and electric heating savings by the tune, in some cases, as much as 60%, and others 20 or accurately depicting it. So we definitely know that there's some overestimations of the baseline in Energy Pro that aren't reflected in the new deemed program.
Great. Thank you very much, Joanne. The next question submitted is, can a weighted average ceiling height be a round number, or must it be a fraction? I think this is regarding the building inputs in the job submission slide deck.
You know, if it's reasonably close, it's fine. It doesn't have to be exact within the tenth of a square foot, I don't think. Rounded off to 1 square foot is fine.
Great. Thank you. The next question is, are all the fields in the application required?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Are all the fields in the application required? So I think this is the building details in the job submission portion.
Yeah, to the best of your ability, do fill out all the fields. The user interface will prompt you when something is or is not required. So if you try to save a section and you didn't fill out something within that section that is required, it will give you a little red note that then prompts you to go back and fill that particular item out and then save again.
Great. Thank you. The next question is, does this mean no notice to proceed is required?
No notice to proceed required. That is correct. You are, to a certain extent, released to your own recognizance, and you as a responsible, good faith contractor, go out and do the work. Don't wait for us to tell you what you can and can't do as long as you're following the program rules. You can submit your project after it's finished for rebate. Great.
The next question is, are pool pumps projected to be part of this program?
As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, but I think pool pumps is one of the things they're working on as a potential flex measure in the future. Or maybe it was an add-on. Yeah.
Yeah, slight clarification. So we are working and will have very shortly available pool pumps in the advanced program being modeled for energy savings. In the home upgrade program, we plan to, over the next couple of months, integrate it as an add-on, so it wouldn't count towards your 3 measures or towards reaching 100 points, but you get a bonus of up to $300 if the contractor has taken the proper training.
So to clarify, within that user interface, you'd be still adding up at least 3 measures that are qualifying measures within home upgrade in order to form your points total to get your home upgrade rebate. But within the same user interface, you'd be able to then move to a new screen that allows you to, with the same job application, add on various single rebate measures so that they all get processed at the same time.
I think that sounds right. Yeah. Great. The next question is regarding attic insulation. Is there a maximum level for existing insulation that would not allow us to add any more?
Joanne, you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it has to be less than the required insulation spec, so either R30 or R38 in certain climate zones. So if that was already existing, that would not be eligible. But please note that there's an air sealing requirement, so there would have to be, some sort of access to the key areas in the attic plane to be able to seal to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I mean, presumably you're not taking out something that was, measurable to say R25 and replacing it with R30. You're addressing situations for clients where they have insulation issues, they have issues with comfort or what have you, where you're typically removing the existing insulation, if there is any, and replacing it with well-installed, higher quality, fire retardant, etc., new insulation to at least R30 in most climate zones, and then 11 through 16 to R38 at a minimum.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question is, will this PowerPoint be sent out via email? The answer is yes. So a follow-up email will be sent at the beginning of next week to all attendees. It'll contain links to the PowerPoint presentation as well as a link to the recording. The next question is, are test-in and test-out assessments required for every project?
And the answer is yes. You have to look at combustion appliance safety and the diagnostic characteristics that test-in when required for the measures you intend to select with your client in every situation. You aren't obligated to perform both blower door and duct blaster at every test-in, test-out event, but if but only the ones that are required for the measures selected. In some cases, that will be both when you're performing all 3 base measures, for instance. But yeah, hopefully that's clear. You still do test in, test out. You just submit the documentation to us after you've completed the installation at the same time. So instead of waiting for us to check that test in, you just submit it when you've completed the job with the test out.
Thank you. The next question is, what method do we use to verify duct leakage, actual or leakage to outside, nominal, or actual airflow?
Well, you could use, as part of your equation, you could use actual or you could use nominal. But in terms of actually measuring, in this particular case, because you're not obligated to perform a blower door test in every case, we are accepting total duct leakage as well as duct leakage to outside. So it's your choice which to do. In cases where you're not required to perform a blower door test diagnostic because you're not selecting that base measure, for instance, then we wouldn't expect necessarily to see a duct leakage to outside number because you don't necessarily have to be carrying around the blower door for that.
Great, thank you. There is a follow-up question to blower door testing. Is blower door testing required?
Yes, for all the air sealing base measures.
Great.
So whole house and attic plane air sealing.
Okay, wonderful. The next question is, why are we using the vintage table for building leakage and not actual leakage? Wouldn't this eliminate the requirement of a test-in blower door?
Well, the short answer is that because all of these measures are based on deemed average across the state savings. They're using the SLA, which is determined by the CEC as the average leakage for a single-family detached home. But Joanne, do you have further clarification on that?
Yeah, it was the vintage tables were seen as an easier way to manage this and requiring less from the contractor, in addition to having the ability to calculate savings based on those, which from a dean perspective, as Torsten mentioned.
Thank you very much. The next question is, do you require air sealing for floor insulation?
Well,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Joanne.
I was going to say that's a great question, and it's not required, but it's very, very highly recommended.
Yeah. Encouraged. You know, best practice. If you can talk your client into it, that would be ideal.
Great, thank you. The next question, I think we may have already answered. Do you accept total duct leakage or duct leakage to outside? And the answer was both. Is that correct?
Yeah, for home upgrade. For advanced home upgrade, we're still requiring duct leakage to outside as the testing measure. That recently changed this year, and that is still the case with advanced home upgrade. But for home upgrade, because it's not using energy modeling and it's a slightly different assessment. It's less focused on the specific whole house process. We still intend, if at all possible, for people to perform, you know, essentially whole house upgrades. But we recognize that not every customer is going to be able to afford those or is at that moment in the market for it.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question is, how are rebates handled in areas that have different electrical company than PG&E?
So, for instance, I think with SMUD, correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, but SMUD has a parallel rebate application program, but there won't be a split between what Build It Green and PG&E will be issuing and SMUD. There'll be separate job submissions, and there'll be separate rebates for those measures selected.
Yeah, and I'd like to just add to that. So as you mentioned, SMUD's program is formulated very similarly, so we definitely would encourage you to leverage both rebates to maximize the benefit for your customers. For those of you who don't know, there's a meeting next week, next Friday, for contractors, and we'll be going over PG&E program and SMUD program and talking about how they can be paired. One thing of note is that if the customer is only a PG&E gas customer and non-electric customer, they would not be eligible for the electric storage water heater or the AC incentives. They'd be eligible for the other ones.
Great, thank you. And then, Joanne, can you expand a little bit on that question? How would users calculate the rebate amount? Would it just be a matter of them not selecting or not being able to select those measures depending on the utilities they enter?
So, and Torsten, or I'm not sure if you have the answer to block them out if they don't select PG&E for both, or if that's something that would be caught during desktop.
Yeah. Well, for the moment, I think that is something that we verify in desktop review, but in, as we continue to make improvements to the user interface, there should be a logic built in that precludes the applicant from selecting that measure in a certain territory. So in you enter a certain zip code within SMUD territory, it recognizes that, and it grays out that as an option under this particular set of circumstances.
Great, thank you. We have another question regarding the point systems. Why is replacing an AC unit only valued at 10 points when it seems that Energy Pro modules typically calculate 10% or more in the Central Valley for AC replacement?
Yeah, that's a great question. As we mentioned before, these are based on deemed energy savings, where the baseline assumption is usually code, which in the Valley, is higher versus Energy Pro, which is modeling existing condition change to the new proposed condition. As you can also see, it's a relatively, in my opinion at least, a low SEER value, SEER value. And so we do plan to offer higher tiers that would come with additional points and rebate values, as mentioned earlier.
Great, thank you. The next question has to do with modeling software. Are we moving away from or are we updating the use of Energy Pro software?
For the advanced home upgrade program, Energy Pro is still the only acceptable energy modeling software, and we are working on a process to allow additional software use in the advanced program, but that's not currently available, but we hope to have more information towards the end of the year on that.
Thank you, Joanne. The next question is, are houses with knob and tube wiring allowed?
Yeah, just like advanced home upgrade, you'd want to perform a C10 inspection on that and verify that indeed is safe to insulate on top of. And if deemed not to be by a licensed specialty contractor, electrician, then you would want to make sure that that gets addressed and removed prior to insulating if the case warrants.
Great. And then I just do want to remind those on the line, we are getting to the last couple of submitted questions. So if anyone on the line has any remaining questions, feel free to use the questions box on the GoToWebinar panel and enter your questions. We'll take them in the order that they're received. The next question, Torsten, is if air sealing measures require blower door or duct blaster tests, how are homes with asbestos duct wrap handled? Are they handled as new ducting will be required prior to testing?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, but I think we're handling this the same way we do in the advanced program, which is it's a judgment call by the contractor as to whether it's safe to perform that blower door duct blaster test, and there's guidance from BPI on that. That we have linked on our website, on our document resource library, as well as on BPI's website. But if it is deemed to be unsafe to do so, then we wouldn't want you to do anything you consider unsafe. And if you need to determine whether it is asbestos-containing material, you must contact the appropriately licensed contractor to perform that sampling or inspector. We encourage you, by the way, to have it removed by a licensed asbestos contractor because it, only presents problems in the future, and probably not the best idea to pair it to any interaction with it is potentially disturbing it, which is what you're not supposed to do.
Great, thank you, Torsten. So that was the final question submitted. Just to remind those on the line, if you have remaining questions, you can contact us. Our participant hotline is on the screen, as well as our email for enrollment, general, and job-related questions. No other questions have been submitted. I suppose we'll wait a few moments.
Yeah, we'll give it 5 minutes. If other questions come back in, then we will conclude the webinar, and we will be conducting another one on, I believe it's Tuesday next week.
Yes, that's right. So if there was any part of this exciting webinar that you missed, tune in next week for the second installment.
Or tell your friends.
Or tell your friends, yeah.
And stay tuned for additional email blasts and communication, and encourage you to visit the website, buildagreenutility.org.
Okay, great. So we do have a couple of more questions submitted. So a representative from Bakersfield would like to know, why is the AC point guide so low? And Joanne, I think you alluded to this a little bit already. Can you provide some more information?
Yeah, sure. So as mentioned earlier, this is all based on deemed energy saving that's available for PG&E to claim, since our rebates are set based on the energy savings value that we're able to get in this program. And part of the deemed approach is you do have to take the current code baseline and the anticipated measure savings, and in this case the delta is pretty small. We do plan to, as mentioned earlier, add additional tiers with higher SEER and EAR values that will likely offer additional points.
And I would add, until that time, we would be happy to see the applicant submit their job as an advanced home upgrade job, and if they feel they can model higher savings based on the specific circumstances, then they might be entitled, in that case, to a larger rebate for the customer.
Or contact information for BayREN.
I don't at the moment. Joanne, do you have any update on that?
I can't speak on exact date. I know that they're working diligently to get their program up and running and anticipate having it available shortly. We can get the BayREN contact information and make it available on the Build It Green utility.org website as a resource. So we'll make sure to update that.
Thank you, Joanne. And the next question is, do you require QII or HERS verification for any of the home upgrade program measures?
The short answer would be, if it's triggered by Title 24, then of course yes. But correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, but not specifically for the program, for the rebates. So you're still required to follow state code, Title 24, but we're not looking for CF4Rs in order to process the rebate.
Joanne, did you want to just confirm that?
Oh, that's correct.
Wonderful. Thanks. The next question is, can a homeowner participate in both the advanced and basic programs?
Yes.
Sorry. But you want to take that, Joanne?
Yeah, sure. So I was going to say yes, but but they can't be for the same measures. So if somebody wanted to participate in the home upgrade now and then do an advanced job later, or for additional set of measures, that's fine. Or if they've already participated in advanced or basic and wanted to do a home upgrade, that's fine. But they can't get multiple incentives for the same measure.
Yeah, the same as with advanced home upgrade jobs and participating in that. Again, there's no double dipping. So if you received a rebate for a specific measure that contributed to that rebate, you can't then select it again. Within, I believe it's 6 years or so. Joanne? Joanne? The time limit on double dipping?
Yeah, sorry about that. It's 6 years.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So that was our last question for the moment. We'll hang tight for a bit, and to those on the line, if you have remaining questions, please take a moment to submit them now. We are available by phone and email, and our contact information is on the screen now. But we'll wait a few moments for questions to come in, and if not, we'll go ahead and conclude. So just stay on the line one moment, and we'll review the questions now. Okay, so this is Melina again of Build It Green. Thank you to those that are remaining on the line. No questions have been submitted since our short break. So Joanne and Torsten, if it's all right with you, we're going to go ahead and end the webinar. Thank you, Joanne, for attending and providing answers to some of these questions. And thank you all on the line. We'll be providing updates utility.org website. And once again, feel free to reach out to us via phone or email with other questions.
Thank you, everyone, for the time. We look forward to collaborating with you shortly.